and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And we are here to talk about the final Panthers game of the season. It just finished. The Panthers lost. We knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, I'm clapping because it's over. This season, this 2-12 ending of the season is over. I don't have to get my hopes up anymore. Granted, this game, even when we were up 7-3 late in the second, I knew we were going to lose. I knew it.
Nah.
Matt Rhule and company sucks in the third quarter. And guess what? Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, good coach and good quarterback, figured out Matt Rhule, and Matt Rhule makes no adjustments again, and they get steamrolled in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it's the script. You know, this was as scripted for the last, 3.5 months, whatever it's been. Panthers lose this one 41-17. 41-17. That's your final Panthers game of the season. I was hoping that the Panthers would go out on a positive note here and,
I was too.
Give us, I don't know, it probably doesn't give a lot of people hope for next season, even if they do win, but it would have felt nice for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sure the players would have liked it, but that didn't happen. The Panthers, I was just a real quick stat. The Panthers had the ball for 35 minutes to 25 minutes for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Tampa put up 41 on the Panthers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I wonder how often that's happened where just a huge blowout where the losing team has the ball 10 minutes more than the winning team.
Hey, Matt Rhule said he wanted to run the ball more, and he did. He ran the ball 26 times this game to only 43 passes. Good job, Matt Rhule. Sticking with your game plan.
Oh, God.
I
don't even know where you want to start here.
I mean, if anybody wants to really think that Matt Rhule's a good coach and not hear me bash him all episode, you could go ahead and turn off, because that is my plan. Because Matt Rhule, this is the quintessential reason why Matt Rhule should be fired. 4th and inches, or, Cam Newton's still on the team. You already trotted him out there once.
Just waiting.
I mean, you already ran him out there. So let's be honest, that's fine. Okay, we're going to see him at short yards. Yeah. No, Sam Darnold up the middle. What? What are you doing? You have a 6'5", 200 ripped quarterback that is the best short yardage quarterback of all time on your bench, and instead you do Sam Darnold that. No! Sam Darnold is mobile. Sam Darnold is not Cam Newton short yardage back.
Here's what Matt Rhule says. It was just a QB sneak. If it were a 4th and 1 and you were going to run a QB power, then Cam Newton would have made sense. No, Cam Newton would have made sense in this instance as well.
Yeah.
And if you're going to sneak it, then Cam is obviously the best choice. If you're going to try to do something else, Cam is still the best choice. Because if you bring Cam in, then that's what everyone thinks is going to happen, is just a QB run up the middle. So that gives you some options.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It made no sense at the time. And hearing what Matt Rhule said at halftime when he said, we have both guys can do that. Okay, well, one can do it a lot better than the other.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. But one guy made a career doing it.
If Cam Newton was not on this team, I would have had no qualms about that call.
Sure.
No qualms.
Sure.
But Cam Newton's on this team. Cam Newton is the best short yardage quarterback of all time. They do that. It's just Matt Rhule thinks he's the smartest man on the field at any given time. And guess what? He is by far the smartest man. He does it like Bruce Arians, Tom Brady. They can outcoach him. Both of them. I think you could slap the headphones on Tom Brady and he's going to offensive coordinator, probably defensive coordinator, outsmart him.
Yeah. Tom Brady probably could be a pretty good defensive coordinator. He knows everything. But yeah, I mean, this was just, again, we've seen this all season long. This is no surprises to anyone here as to how the Panthers lost this game, or it was a boring game, boring offensive play play called game as
Yeah.
usual. I watched the Lions Packers game earlier today, and the Lions were doing all kinds of stuff.
I watched part of
Double,
that game
triple,
too.
yeah, double, triple reverses, wide receivers throwing
Innovative.
passes. They were doing all kinds of stuff, and they won the game. Like it was a good game, a fun game to watch. If you're a Lions fan, you're coming out of that game feeling really good after your 3-win season. I mean, honestly,
Yeah. I mean,
you're feeling
not
like
only
there's hope.
I mean, after the second half of the season, the Detroit Lions are a way better team than this Carolina Panthers team. They're they had 3 wins and a tie in the second half of the season. The Carolina had a win? I mean, like you said, the Lions looked, yes, they're playing the Packers backup. I know I'm going to see that in the things.
Well, no, Aaron Rodgers started that game, and the Lions were winning the game when Rodgers went out of the game.
I mean, it's just that team is fighting for Dan Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't see that. I think Carolina Panthers, yes, they're playing for their roster. They're not sitting and giving up. But I don't see them fighting for Matt Rhule or Matt Rhule really scheming up this team to win a game. Not like Dan Campbell has the second half of the season. He's biting kneecaps.
There's certainly no innovation happening with the Panthers. I mean, I don't know what Tepper saw in Rhule when he brought him in that made him think that this was going to work out. But we haven't seen Rhule learning. We haven't seen him changing. We haven't seen him evolving. The in-game substitutions and play calling and time management again today. I mean, let's just talk about one play. I think that kind of encompasses the Panthers season. Time's running out in the first quarter. It's 4th and 6. The Panthers are on Tampa's 39, I think. Now, they've already gone for it on 4th down at least once earlier in the game. You kind of knew that that's what was going to happen in this game. They were just going to go for it, and that's fine. I was fine with that.
You're 5-11 against the winning NFC South team. Yeah,
nothing to lose. Which is why I thought we'd see more fun play calls and reverse, just all kinds of stuff that we didn't see. But anyway, 4th and 6, they line up to go for it. Time's running out. The difference between the play clock and the game clock is, a quarter of a second. But if the play clock runs out before the game clock, then there is a penalty there. So Matt Rhule calls a timeout with 1 second left in the first quarter. That's the second timeout of the half. Okay. So the Panthers have 1 timeout left. And then the play call on 4th and 6 is to just have Sam Darnold throw it as far as he can down the left side of the field to DJ Moore. It was a bad throw. DJ was covered. And that was what they did. And I thought to myself, well, if you want to win this game, then probably the prudent thing to do at that point would be to punt. You already had to call a timeout. The offense is in disarray. Like, nobody knows what's going on. Matt Rhule is like on the sideline looking at the clock, and he's waving his hands. He's already sweating profusely. He has no idea what's going on. And I felt like that sort of, it's solidified. Things have been solidified for me for a while that Matt Rhule is not a very good coach and should be fired. Yeah. He's not going to be fired, but he should be. But that was rough. That was just a bad sequence there. Tampa got the ball back. I think they went down and scored. After that, they got their field goal or whatever. But that was rough.
Yeah. It's just the same old thing. The only thing I could honestly say about this game that I saw improvement over the rest of the season, less penalties. Less penalties. Other than that, what bad quarterback play, bad time management, bad in-game coaching. Once Tampa Bay figured out that Jermaine Carter would sit up, Gronkowski. And guess what?
Yeah.
We never adjusted. This team never adjusted.
Yeah, the lack of adjustments has been a problem all season long, and it continued today. Back-to-back plays to Gronkowski, the same exact thing, and Jermaine Carter did this same exact thing. the defense was lined up the same way, and it just didn't. Nothing changed. Jermaine
Best
Carter,
for
I
first
think,
quarter
is
team. Sorry.
No, I mean, yeah. Another good thing that happened, if you want to, be positive again, the Panthers went 17 games and did not allow a first possession touchdown. It's nice to get off on those good starts. I mean, most, good teams get off to good starts. The Panthers that's it. That's all they did is they got off to good starts, and then everything else was downhill from there. Pretty much every game.
It's because they have a good scheme set up for the start of the game. And then once the other coaches look at what you're doing, what they're succeeding at, they stop it. And then that leaves this coaching staff. I mean, they don't know what to do. They're like a deer in headlights. And I'm not saying I would do better. I would be a horrible coach. But I'm just saying, like, you're an NFL coach.
Yeah.
You're an NFL coach. You need to realize it, but they don't. First, I think this is the best offense and defense, the best first quarter team in the league.
Yeah,
it was a few weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah. They just haven't scored enough points in the first quarter, over the last couple of weeks to maintain that maybe. But they haven't given up a lot of points. 0 points in the first quarter in this game for a team that scored 41. So that's all you need to know,
I mean, I still go back to what happened to trying to run the ball. We have this rookie running back we want to see who looked well today. He played well today. 9 carries.
He had 2 good runs today. He had a 19-yard run and a 15-yard run. And after both of those runs, Matt Rhule pulled him from the game and put Amir Abdullah in there. And Amir Abdullah finished out both of those series. Amir Abdullah had 9 catches today. 11 target, had the most targets, most catches on the team. I like Amir Abdullah. I think Amir Abdullah is a very good. I think Amir Abdullah is a good third down back, a good receiving back.
Mm-hmm.
But they played Amir Abdullah more than they played Chuba Hubbard in this game.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, it's because of the situation, blah, 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 we were in. Well, Chuba Hubbard caught a very nice ball for a touchdown in the first quarter. Really nice catch, all hands, had to reach for it, had to make a play. It's game 17. Let Chuba go out there and try to catch the ball. Let him get some of that experience.
You know what you have in Amir Abdullah.
Yeah. Amir Abdullah is fine. And I think Amir Abdullah should be on the team next year.
I
like
agree.
Amir Abdullah. I don't think Amir Abdullah should be getting 20 touches a game.
No. Not in this offense.
What do you have in Chuba? Does anybody know what we have in Chuba? This season, after his first season.
I still have question marks. I think he could be a decent running back if given the opportunity of multiple touches. I think he's the type of running back that needs to constantly get the ball, though. I don't think he's going to be a spot running back. He needs to get that 15 to 20 touches, not 10.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a guy that is going to, like his numbers today, he averaged 5.3. But again, 2 rushes really made up most of his total.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he's that kind of guy that he's gonna break one every once in a while to make his numbers look good, but most of the time he's just gonna get 1 to 2 yards or hit in the backfield or whatever. Or if he's a guy that as the game goes on, he starts getting those 5 to 10 to 15-yard runs. Nobody knows because they didn't let him do it.
No,
I think that's a huge mistake.
I do too.
Add that to the list of all the things that Matt Rhule has done that have infuriated us this season.
Tommy Trimble, another guy you want to see a lot from. I mean, I love DJ Moore, and I think he's a really good receiver and should be on this team and number 1 receiver.
Yep.
But this game was for nothing. Why are you not trying to see what Tommy Trimble has? I mean, I thought he was on IR. I guess it was COVID-19 last week. So my apologies to the listeners, but I guess he had 5 targets. I didn't even see that. I guess those were a lot of throwaways because
I think a couple of them were, yeah. There was a couple in traffic or at least, but yeah, I don't know. Again, this draft class, I don't know really what we got out of it. Matt Rhule tried everything he could not to play Brady Christensen. J.C. Horn got hurt early. Tommy Tremble did nothing. Chuba Hubbard had every opportunity in the world, and he theoretically had every opportunity in the world, and they just didn't give him the ball. They didn't let him do anything.
Terrace Marshall all of a sudden disappeared.
Was a zero, a complete bust.
Like he didn't even get to see the field in the second half of the season. Like it seemed like in the preseason they were trying to gear him up for a big role in this offense, and then once the season started, they only played him like 5 snaps a game, and you're like, where is this?
Terrace Marshall had an awesome preseason. Terrace Marshall was getting drafted in fantasy drafts. Terrace Marshall being talked about, on talk shows about how he might be, the LSU receiver that should have been drafted the highest. Obviously that turned out to be ridiculous, but they just didn't do anything with him. And even with Robbie Anderson playing terribly for most of the season, they did not give Terrace Marshall an opportunity.
Why? Why does this?
I don't know.
I'm just dumbfounded.
We went through this with Ron Rivera, who just did not want to play rookies. He just, unless he was absolutely forced to, he did not want to play rookies. And I didn't think that Matt Rhule would be like that, considering he's coming from college, and he maybe is more comfortable with guys of that age, and guys that are learning and teaching guys and things like that. But no, he just didn't give any of these guys really an opportunity to do anything.
No.
So what do you have? What's Matt Rhule here for? I mean, we'll talk about Matt Rhule a little later.
Collect a paycheck.
Well, why does Tepper want him here? I guess is my question.
I guess my only thought is he doesn't want to fire his first head coach that he hired 2 years into a 7-year deal. That would be my only guess.
He doesn't want to admit a mistake.
That and money, which I think both reasons are bad. Maybe he promised him 3 years to turn it around, that he gets 3. Either way, it's a bad reason. Yeah. I'm not seeing any progression of this team. Sorry.
No, we haven't seen any progression. And someone like David Tepper, it would seem like a guy that's made all this money off investments and, his wealth management company and all this, would know that you just have to dump a bad investment. Mm-hmm. If it's not working out, you dump it before you get in the hole any deeper. And it feels like this should be one of those opportunities for him to go ahead and move on from a bad investment, chalk it up to a learning experience, and go out and get somebody that has NFL experience as your head coach.
And this is a game recap, but it's going to become we're just going into.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, maybe we'll look at some of the stats here in a bit, but this is, the season's over.
Yeah. We got lambasted on our last week. I mean, we want to talk about,
Yeah.
Since the reports are that Matt Rhule will be back. I mean, that's ESPN reported it yesterday. It is looking like that's the way. It just makes no sense. I'm kind of glad this team lost 41-17, because maybe that makes Tepper really think, wow, maybe I'm making the wrong decision here.
Yeah, and there was a report from Jay Glazer today that basically said, not so fast with this Matt Rhule thing. He's going to have to hire a rock star offensive coordinator to keep his job. I don't know what that means, because does that mean that Matt Rhule needs to go out tomorrow and hire an offensive coordinator? Because if you're going to fire him, you need to fire him now, so you have, first run at these potential coaches.
Yeah.
If you're waiting to see if Matt Rhule can hire a rock star offensive coordinator, then all these other guys are going to be hired, or at least deep into the interview process with other teams. And you're going to come in late, and that's not going to set you up for any success either. So, there was a report that said that they were targeting Bill O'Brien, Jay Gruden, and then the Rams offensive coordinator, who I don't know his name off the top of my head. But I think any of those guys would be good options. Bill O'Brien's going to be interviewing for head coaching jobs. We know at least he's interviewing for Jacksonville. Jay Gruden probably available, but I don't know how quickly these things occur. So my thing is like, if that's what it's going to take for Matt Rhule to keep his job, then just fire Matt Rhule.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Joe Brady was a rock star hire. Remember?
At the time, yeah.
He was that flash in the pan, like, ooh, he's going to be the next, Sean McVay. He got interviews after a bad season last year because he was still that flash in the pan.
He had 5 head coaching interviews after last season.
So, I mean,
5.
What rock star offensive coordinator is he going to get? Now, I like Jay Gruden. I like Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinators. Bill O'Brien was a good head coach for Houston up until he had full reign over the roster, which he sucked at.
GM, good head coach.
And Jay Gruden had some good years in Washington as a head coach. And I think Matt Rhule definitely needed a former head coach on this roster. But it's too little too late, in my opinion. I don't see him being able to turn this team around to become that type of coach.
Well, you and I talked about it when Matt Rhule got hired.
Mm-hmm.
And when his staff was announced, we were concerned with the lack of NFL experience. And both you and I said he needed an NFL head coach, a former NFL head coach, as one of his coordinators. Just, if nothing else, to acclimate him to the NFL. Somebody that knows how to do things and run a team, run an NFL team. It's different than running a college team. It's very different. And now you're asking him in year 3 to go out and find one of these guys. He's already talked about how he wish he would have brought in someone that he knew instead of Joe Brady as his OC. He doesn't know Jay Gruden. He doesn't know Bill O'Brien. So this is obviously, I believe, coming from Tepper or Fitterer, whoever's pulling the strings at this point. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see moving forward, assuming Matt Rhule stays, does some of his personnel decision-making get pulled? It should.
It should.
Do they bring in a former NFL head coach as offensive coordinator? They should. And then, where does that leave Matt Rhule? At this point, what is he in charge of? And how does the team react? Because it seems like, based on what we're hearing from the players, they want him back.
I mean, what
Brian
are the players
wants him back? I mean, we hear players all the time say that they don't want coaches back, that they're publicly, negging coaches, and anonymous sources saying things about, really negative about the coaches.
Well, we got anonymous sources.
But they weren't negative about Matt Rhule's coaching style. They were negative about how he kept Temple and Baylor players on the roster.
Coaching style. I mean,
that's not coaching style. That's personnel decisions. Again, that's personnel decisions. I think a lot of it is that, honestly. I mean, you and I were talking earlier. It's a head coach should focus on coaching.
But I also believe that head coaches need to have a very, very hands-on to the roster. I don't think you can just
I don't agree with that.
Because I think the coaches need to know what schemes works for them, what players kind of work for them, and everything else.
I mean, that's what the GM is for. That's why they're there. They're there to make those, to bring in those guys that fit the scheme. Once they know the scheme, they should be able to go get those guys.
But it's a little bit different. You're not playing like a GM needs to be able. This is my thought of a GM. A GM needs to be able to scout, get the information, and relay it to the coach. Work with the coach to decide on which is the best route. I don't think that the GM basically being, oh, this guy's going to fit you, you're good. I don't necessarily believe in that. I think that the coach needs to do the shopping too.
I guess that's where I disagree. I think the GM and the coach need to work together. Yes. The GM is the one I think that should be bringing things to the head coach, right? Then they talk about it, and then the decision is made. I don't think the coach needs to be making those personnel decisions in terms of, this is the guy I want. This is the guy. Maybe in the draft, I could see that. But, for free agency, stuff like that, I think that's the GM's job. His job is to go out there, scout, find those guys, talk to those guys, bring them in, ensure that they do fit the scheme. These are all football guys. These GMs, they know football. They're not just numbers guys. They know.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that, but again, I can't remember the quote by Bill Parcells, but I mean, you can't ask a coach to coach a player he doesn't like or doesn't fit his scheme. You say, oh, the GM should know that, but what if he doesn't? What if the coach?
Then they made a bad decision on the GM.
Well, I mean, that's another issue that's constant. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it happens, but yeah, what I'm trying to do is take responsibility away from Matt Rhule. I don't think it works in the NBA. I don't think it works in the NFL. I don't think having your head coach effectively be a GM and play 2 full-time roles is effective. I don't think that works.
I am not saying he should have 2 full-time jobs. I am saying that the GM focus more on the cap situations, contracts, the scouting department.
They have a guy for that though. They don't. They have that Suleiman guy that works on the cap and he does all that stuff.
And all that's under the GM. This is the way But then when it comes to acquiring players, the GM should bring it to the coach and say, "Hey, we're looking at this guy. What do you think? Okay, I don't like the way he does this. Okay, we're going to move on then." Or, hey, in free agency, here's our top free agency aspect or players we think we should go after. Is there someone else on this list you think we need to focus in on? And then try to work for, cap reasons. I don't think,
But you're basically saying that the head coach of the Carolina Panthers needs to know the positives and negatives of all these guys on all these different teams. No, I think that's what the GM needs to know.
Before acquiring them, yes. I think
Why? The head coach is going to spend time scouting other players' teams instead of coaching his own team?
No.
And preparing for his own season?
Again, the GM controls the scouting department, but he brings it to the head coach when it's time to acquire players in the offseason. You don't typically acquire players in the middle of the season, and if you do, you'd be like, hey, quarterback situation. Hey, we don't really have much in the field of quarterbacks. We have Cam Newton. We have like we did. You bring it to Matt Rhule. Which quarterback? I think Cam Newton was kind of forced on him, Matt Rhule. But I think you have to bring it to him like that. I don't think you just strong arm the head coach and give him what he doesn't want.
I didn't say anything about strong arming.
You were like, no, the GM decides the players. No, it needs to be a cooperation.
I said the GM works with the head coach. I said that, but I don't think the head coach should be expected to know what a second string offensive lineman on the Houston Texans does well and does poorly. I think that's the GM's job. That's the scouting department's job.
That's under the GM. But before acquiring acquiring him, you have to talk to the head coach and be like, "Hey, do you think you could work with this guy?" I mean,
but why should the head coach know that?
What? So you're just
why should he know how he's going to work with Pat Elflein before they bring him in? How would the head coach know?
Because he needs to know what his deficiencies are. If he thinks he could actually fix the problem or not. He's going to see these.
Why does the GM know that?
He does, and he's relaying it to the head coach before the decision is made.
Okay, then what does the head coach need to do?
He needs to make a decision.
Why is that the head coach's job? The head coach's job is to coach the guys on the field. Ron Rivera always said that the personnel decisions and stuff are left to the guys that make those decisions. He's there to coach the guys on the field.
I think we have a very
best head coach in the Panthers history.
I think we have a very similar thought process on what the GM and head coach is. You just think that the head coach should be only focused on coaching. He should have no input on acquiring players.
But I didn't say that, Jerry. I said
he's not
the one that should be making those decisions. Input, yes. He's not the one that should be making those decisions. He's not the one that should be well-versed on who Pat Elflein is, who Cam Irving is as a player. That's the GM. The GM needs to be telling the head coach, about all of this stuff. Who
And that's
these
what I
guys
said.
are.
And that's what I
And
said. I said the GM brings the scouting information
yes,
and the player information to the head coach before you bring them in.
right.
Because, and that's all I said. And you're acting like
These are the guys that I think are good for the team.
Yes.
Here they are. Do you have any qualms about me bringing these guys in?
Yes.
You know, and if Matt Rhule says, I hate this guy, okay. Otherwise, Matt Rhule should be like,
I've watched his tape. I don't think he's fixable. That's fine. I think we're literally I think you're misunderstanding.
We're saying the same thing. I think you're also misunderstanding what I'm saying. I think we have similar thoughts. It's just I think Matt Rhule should have a little less input, I guess, and focus more on the job of a head coach, in-game management, things like that, and less time spent researching all this stuff that they pay other people to do.
I agree with that. I think Matt Rhule does spread himself way too thin. I mean, John Harbaugh of Baltimore Ravens, I think we can both agree that he has been a really good head coach. He was a special teams coordinator. He's never been an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. You know what he's really good at? Managing a staff. He's good at managing an offensive coordinator. He's good at managing defensive coordinator. He's managing players and working with the GM to acquire better. I mean, Ozzie Newsome was really great for that team too, by the way, GM. But I think that Matt Rhule doesn't have to be a great X's and O's guys. He needs to be a good manager, and I don't think he's a good manager.
Well, we certainly haven't seen it so far. And again, you know, he's going to have this whole offseason, and that's all. That's all I'm saying is that I hope that this offseason he's focused on his staff, you know, bring in the OC, and I hope the OC has some latitude in who their staff is, you know, who the offensive line coach is, who the wide receivers coach, the running back coach, quarterback coach, all that stuff. I hope that they have some latitude in who they're bringing in and who they're going to be working with, because I think a lot of those guys need to be replaced, quite frankly. But then I hope Matt Rhule spends his entire offseason learning some in-game management, learning some adjustments, learning some time management stuff, and then working really closely with his staff on creating some interesting, innovative concepts. Yeah. It's just, you know, and honestly, less time worrying about the people that are going to be on the team. Let the GM kind of worry about that, and he'll have his input, like we said. But, you know, Matt Rhule has a lot to learn and a lot to improve on just coaching the team, you know, because he has not done a good job with that. I think you would agree with that.
Oh, yeah. He's done a horrible job at it. Yeah. I've tweeted this out. Ron Rivera had won 5-win or less seasons in his entire coaching career. That was the year he was fired as a Panthers head coach. Mm-hmm. Matt Rhule has 2 already in his first 2 years. I mean, and I've seen no improvement from this team. I feel I've seen more regression from the offense and defense throughout the season than I've seen progression of any sorts on this team. Even the defense. The defense has, I mean, I don't remember, recently has really struggled. It seems like teams have figured out, as long as we could get the ball out quickly, we could defeat this defense. And you know what? They are. They're putting up 30 points a game on us lately.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the last, you know, our 7-game losing streak here, 27 points, 33 points, 29 points, 31 points, 32 points, 18 last week to the Saints, and 41 this week. So that's not a good defense.
No.
At all. You know, and they're still, and Tony Romo's still talking about, this is the number 2 defense in the league. No, they're not. They're really not.
No, really I mean, not. Yes,
they
some
do
of that
well
is
at certain things. And then game plan wise, they, you know, benefit from being blown out sometimes in terms of passing yardage.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's going to pass when you're up 32-6 in the fourth quarter. You know, so I think some of that's smoke and mirrors, unfortunately. I do think the defense has improved over last year.
Yeah. But
they have regressed as the year has gone on. Mm-hmm. But
like I said, I was going to say, like I said, I think that teams kind of figured out this defense that if you can slow down the pass rush, dip it on, quick passes, you know, you can dip and dunk, run up the middle on this team because it's been proven,
Mhm.
then that's all you got to do. There's not much else, You could slowly kill them with the run game up the middle, quick passes, and then eventually, that offense on the other team is going to give you a short field, and you can get one in the end zone.
It's the same formula we've been seeing all season long.
Yep.
I mean, DJ Moore had another really nice season. I think that's about all you can say on the offense in terms of positives. Who else had a good season on the offense?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Not a soul.
Not a single player. And you're not going to win a lot of games if you only have one guy who the defense has to worry about.
I mean, I was just thinking throughout the roster offense, no one. Brady Christensen looked halfway decent at left tackle towards the couple starts he had. He gave up a sack today. But, I mean, I wouldn't say he was good at by any stretch. I
wouldn't say he had a good season, no.
No.
I mean, he didn't really have an opportunity to have a good season, if we're being honest.
I mean, Taylor Moton had an okay season. It's kind of hard to tell because he was just... Yeah. He was one guy blocking one guy versus the rest of them just coming full strength at the quarterback. I mean, you can't really tell if that's him or not.
Right. I wouldn't say that Taylor Moton had a bad season by any means, but I don't think he had an outstanding season, And on defense, there were some standouts. Reddick, Burns both had really nice seasons. I thought Derek Brown made some strides this season.
Mm-hmm.
Shaq Thompson made some strides this season. Fell off a little bit towards the end of the season, but I thought he started out really strong. Dante Jackson started out really strong, kind of fell off towards the end of the season, but I think he made some strides. Jermaine Carter, probably won't see him back next year. Don't think he played well.
He was the weakness weakest starting player on this roster or on defense multiple weeks.
For sure. Yeah. Jeremy Chin, I thought, had a good season given what he was asked to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could have had a better season if he was positioned differently within the defense. But I thought, given what he was asked to do, I thought he had a good season. Justin Burris did not have a good season. Yeah, so I mean, even the really good seasons from DJ Moore and Hassan Reddick, Brian Burns, they weren't historically great seasons.
No,
they were just pretty good seasons. This is what we expect from DJ Moore: 1,100 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns. That's what he's going to give you. He's borderline elite. He's an absolute number one.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see. Well, I'm excited to see Matt or DJ Moore with a starting caliber quarterback because he really hasn't had one his entire career. Cam Newton, his arm was shot when he was playing with him. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kyle Allen, Tyler Heineke. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater was couldn't throw the ball deep downfield. I mean, he's putting up 1,000 yards receiving every year with those quarterbacks. I want to see him with a top tier quarterback, top 2 tier. I mean, you could be a solid starter, and I would love to see you with DJ Moore because I think he could be a 12, 13.
Like Andy Dalton would do wonders for DJ Moore. Honestly, here we are. This is what we're at. We're begging for Andy Dalton. We're willing to look at Mitch Trubisky and
that's
Minshew
sad.
And these guys that have obvious deficiencies, but given what we've had the last couple of years, we would welcome them in with open arms, honestly, just because they're better than what we have.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, look, Matt Rhule, unless something happens, he's coming back, right?
That's what the reports say.
That's what the reports say. So you and I were having a little back and forth earlier about what we should hope for next season.
Yeah.
And I put a little poll out on Twitter.
Oh God.
And well, so what's your preferred outcome next season? Option A: Panthers go 2-5, 2-15. Rhule is fired, and we end up with the number 1 pick. Option B: the Panthers make the playoffs, win a game, and Rhule is back for 2023. Most people would rather the Panthers go 2-15 and have Rhule fired and end up with the number 1 pick. Yeah. Which to me is insane. It's absolutely insane.
I'll tell you why.
That you want. I think I understand why. It's just, it feels like everyone is more focused on how bad Matt Rhule is and that we want Matt Rhule gone. And you would even be willing to give up a season where the Panthers are competitive and make the playoffs for the first time in 5 years and win a playoff game. You would rather the Panthers go 2-15 just to get Matt Rhule out of here. That's ridiculous to me.
Well, here's my thought. First of all, this team has no chance of making the playoffs next year. No chance with Matt Rhule as head coach. This team has talent, but Matt Rhule will not coach this team. Matt Rhule is not a Super Bowl coaching coach. He will never be that. If he does take this team to the Super Bowl, I will eat my words. I will probably print it on a cake and eat it. But I will eat my words.
And it won't be a cake.
Matt Rhule is not a good coach. Point blank, he is not an NFL coach. And you putting the option of the playoffs, that's like far goal. The 2-15 season, honestly, I feel like heading into next year with Matt Rhule as coach, we're probably going to be in Vegas odds of top 5 to get the number 1 draft pick in the year.
I'm not asking
playoffs. I'm talking. I'm just saying you put that out there.
No. I'm not asking what's more realistic. I'm asking what you want to happen. And you and 53.3% of
I didn't say I wouldn't want to play.
Want the Panthers to go 2-15 instead of making the playoffs.
I never said that. You're putting words in my mouth.
I can pull the receipts. You said that. In fact, I even said NFC Championship game to you, and you still want the number 1.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. I did miss that part. But I still don't think that this team really has a chance at the playoffs with Matt Rhule coaching. He doesn't make it.
I don't think they do either. But if I had to choose between one of those two, I would much rather make the playoffs.
Well, me too, because I'm tired of losing and tired of going over this every week about, God, we have talent, but we just suck. We can't help it. We have talent, but we suck because our coach can't get out of his own way. We have talent, but we suck because our coach is sticking by Sam Shitty Darnold. I mean, it's just over and over again. Over and over again.
Yeah. I would really just like to know, was Sam Darnold Matt Rhule's decision?
I think it's
going after Sam Darnold Matt Rhule's decision. And if so, then that fully supports my idea that he should not have personnel decision-making powers. Was Matt Rhule the one who decided to go for Pat Elflein and Cam Irving on day 1 of free agency? Those were the guys that he was targeting. If so, again, he should not have personnel decision-making. If not, then Fitterer is certainly not as good as we gave him credit for earlier in the season. I mean, I think you and I have sort of come off of Fitterer a little bit as the season's gone on, and we've seen how some of this stuff has worked out. But they got some like if Fitterer's the one making those decisions and Matt Rhule's all on board with them, then there's a major problem with the front office of this team.
Oh, yeah.
And the staff of this team. Like a major problem. And I don't know that it gets fixed if Fitterer is the one making those decisions too. Like that's because almost all the personnel decisions made this year were wrong. You could point to a couple that worked out. Gilmore worked out. Signing Taylor Moton was a good thing.
Hassan Reddick, Daquan Jones
Reddick was a really good one. Daquan Jones played pretty well.
Yeah, he was on a cheap deal. That's a win.
Right. Yeah, that's certainly a win. I think that might be it.
Keith Taylor, I think, would say drafting him late like that was a win. He played well. I mean, yeah, he got kind of spanked towards the end of the season, but I think he played well early in the season.
I mean, yeah,
Before
given
that,
his draft position, sure.
yeah.
But I mean, I guess I'm more thinking free agency rather than the draft.
Oh,
But
well.
um,
The C.J.
I
Henderson, you still make that trade. I think it's
I
so hard not to
guess
say.
I
It's
guess
so
so. Yeah. It certainly hasn't worked out. I don't know that CJ Henderson's good. Um, the Perryman thing was a disaster. The offensive line signings they had were a disaster. Quarterback was a disaster. These are major positions.
re-signing Robbie Anderson over DJ Moore, disaster.
That's a rough one. Um, Amir Abdullah, I guess, was a good signing given how much they used him in the last several
But
games.
I think you and I agree. Amir Abdullah has a role.
Sure.
But the problem is this coaching staff thinks his role needs to be Christian McCaffrey light instead of
Right.
what it should be, a 5-touch type of game.
Situational. He should be a
Yeah.
situational player.
Punt and kickoff returns and, 5 touches, and those are, like you said, situational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, long story short, Matt Rhule's back. We're not happy about it. I'm going to be rooting for Matt Rhule to succeed next year. I hope that he wins. I hope he figures stuff out. I understand why many people would, including you, Jerry, would just don't think that that's possible. Given what we've seen, I completely understand that. I'm going to lay out a little quick scenario. Matt Rhule comes in 2020 into the COVID season. He doesn't have an off season. He has a kind of a lame duck quarterback with Cam Newton. They bring in Teddy Bridgewater, new owner. They're all still trying to figure stuff out. You still have Marty Herney. Next season, still dealing with COVID, although you do have an off season, but things are still kind of weird. You bring in a new GM. People are still figuring each other out. And year 3, things kind of start clicking. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I can see happening, honestly. I could also see it completely burning down, honestly.
I mean,
but I could see, given what Matt Rhule honestly has had to deal with in terms of, injury, your star player hurt, 85% of the games that you coached him in. I could see things turning around if next year you don't have to deal with some of that stuff. I could honestly see the Panthers having a good season.
So you're still thinking that, Sam Darnold's going to be this quarterback next year, especially if Rhule is here.
Possibly. He will be on the roster, I think. I don't necessarily think that he is guaranteed to be the starting quarterback.
I do. I think you're paying him $18 million. I think what Matt Rhule did with Cam Newton, I think that solidified my head that Matt Rhule is ride or die with Sam Darnold. And that's what we're going to have to go with. So,
well, I'm going to try to be optimistic and say that Matt Rhule will do what is best for the Panthers to win. And I think he has seen that Sam Darnold is not a winning quarterback. Now, I saw Sam Darnold make some really good throws in this game. And I think with a good offensive line, Sam Darnold could be a average quarterback. I don't think you win a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold at all. But I think he could game manage his way to 9 to 10 wins on a really good team.
I laugh because I hear that every year with Sam Darnold.
Look, I'm trying to be optimistic because I hate being so negative and so down on everything. It doesn't benefit me. It makes me feel bad. and I just want to try to think that maybe something good could happen. I'm not
I
making
would,
any decisions. I'm just a fan. What benefit is it for me to be so negative about it? It doesn't do anybody any good. So
I
I'm
will
going to
be
try to think positively.
I'll probably think positively after the draft and more towards the next season, but right now I am not thinking positive. I'm thinking
Yeah, I am.
I'm still hoping this 41-17 makes Tipper really kind of look at this team and think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing this wrong.
Look, I mean, Tepper had the whole gamut of Matt Rhule in this game. The bad clock management, the bad personnel decisions in terms of where to, what to do. You had the bad personnel on the field making bad plays. The guys he brought in. You had poor play calling. You had unimaginative offense, and you had a defense that got tired and blew the game got away from him at the end. That's the Matt Rhule experience. So David Tepper, if that's what you want, bring him back.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
David
if he
Tepper
is coming back, then I'm going to try to think that maybe he could figure it out. I don't know.
I mean, David Tepper came in and said he wasn't going to deal with mediocrity. He's correct because this team isn't even mediocre. It is awful.
Mediocrity at this point.
I would love a Ron Rivera win to lose season to season now. I was thinking finally maybe we could start winning back-to-back seasons. No.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, just devil's advocate. It's only been 2 seasons. One of those was a COVID infused, terrible season for everybody involved. So I just hope that something can change, that given now Matt Rhule can, if he's honest with himself and he does some self-reflection and looks back at some of these games and these decisions that he's made, if he wants to improve, he's got a lot of tape to look at to
now,
see where
quick question.
went wrong.
Do you think this team is better than last year's team?
In what way?
Just better.
Like personnel?
No,
I think
better.
this team, if this team lined up against last year's team, could they win? Is that what you're asking?
I
mean,
I just think
record-wise, they're worse. They're a half a game worse than record-wise.
But I meant, seriously, is this team better than what we saw last year? Because I felt like last year we kind of ended on a hot.
Same. I think they're the exact same. I think that their deficiencies are the same. From where the team ended up last year to where the team ended up this year, I think they're the same. I think the team started off worse last year and ended up
getting better.
Basically, where the team finished this year, the team started this year higher and then fell back to where we finished last year, essentially. So I think they took 2 different routes to get to the same place. I don't think that this team is. I certainly don't think it's better than last year's team. I don't think it's much worse, if at all.
See, I think it's a little worse. I agree, not a lot, but I think the offensive line's worse. I think, the overall quarterback play was worse. I think I would take Teddy Bridgewater over the gamut of quarterbacks we had this year. Even though he never throws deep, I would prefer that because he's at least consistent with the ball. Running back, Mike Davis, I think, was better. Defense-wise, yes, at the beginning of the year, that defense was pretty bad. But I feel towards the end of the season, they were getting better.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know. I guess I think the offense was better last season, but the defense was better this season, maybe. The offense was certainly better last season. It was more productive. They couldn't score, but they moved the ball up and down the field. But yeah, I mean, getting rid of Teddy Bridgewater, bringing Sam Darnold was a really bad move. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is not anybody's favorite quarterback, but you knew what you had in him. You knew that he was going to be, a solid C+, B- every game.
And you're already paying him.
Yeah, and you were already paying him. You were already paying him. And it's not like Sam Darnold, you had to go out and get Sam Darnold or he was going to be snatched up by someone else and become a superstar overnight. That wasn't going to happen.
It's I mean, it's
It
just
was just a
bad,
terrible. It
bad
was
move,
the whole
bad
yeah.
move.
The quarterback carousel has just been really. I mean, this is what we laugh at teams like Cleveland and and Cincinnati and
We are
these
the
teams that. No,
we
well,
are the
that's what I'm
laughing
saying.
stock.
This is a team I never wanted to be.
Nope.
This team where like we might be getting ready to cycle out another head coach. I don't want to be that team that every 2 or 3 years you're bringing in a new head coach. I don't want to be the team that every season is a new quarterback. I don't want to be that graphic that says, since 2019, Carolina Panthers have started 12 different quarterbacks. I don't want to be that team. That sucks. Those fan bases are miserable. And then you get one good season every once in a while, and then you're back to mediocre or worse again. That's not. I hope that's not where we're heading, but I feel like
See,
it might be.
I feel like that is where we're at. I don't even think we're heading there. I think that's
I
where
don't think
we're
we've been there
at.
long enough to be that's where we're at. But I mean, maybe we're in the beginning of that. Maybe that's where we are. But
That's what I'm saying, because I look at this team and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel right now. Not with
yeah,
this Matt Rhule era. I don't see it. And I think that's why I'm ready for him to be gone.
I agree. I mean, yeah, we're both on the same page there. Matt Rhule should be fired. I really don't understand why Tepper's keeping him, other than money.
I mean, we both thought that this ownership wanted to win. I don't necessarily know if that's true. I think it's more he wants to make money, and that's why he bought the team.
I don't think that's true. I really do think David Tepper wants to win, and I think he's making some of these decisions. I don't know. I don't know if he's just not going about it the right way, I guess. I think he desperately wants to win. And I think that's almost as bad as not wanting to win, because I think you making these rash decisions sometimes. So I don't know. I mean, it almost gives me some hope that he's keeping Matt Rhule and he's not just dumping him and moving on to the next thing. It almost makes me feel better about David Tepper. Now, I think Matt Rhule is a bad coach and should be fired, but it almost makes me feel better that David Tepper's willing to give him time. I think it bodes well for the future of the franchise. If that makes any sense, do you see what I'm saying there at all?
I see what you're saying about giving him time. You feel better about Tepper,
Yeah.
but that's it. I don't feel better about the franchise long term keeping Rhule.
Not keeping Rhule, exactly, but just I guess David Tepper's ownership style.
Yeah,
maybe it gives me a little bit of hope. I don't know.
All right, we're almost at an hour of us just bitching about Matt Rhule. The game,
yeah,
it's over. 41-17.
The game's over. Tom Brady had a great game.
Tom Brady does what Tom Brady does.
I think Tom Brady should be the MVP this season and not Aaron Rodgers. It's probably going to be Aaron Rodgers, but honestly, if you look at their stats and you look at the records, I really think Tom Brady should be the MVP. Gronkowski had a throwback game in this game, 7 catches, 137 yards.
Thanks, Jermaine Carter.
Yeah, I mean, you can almost blame all of that on Jermaine Carter. The Tampa Bay only ran the ball 20 times for 85 yards. They didn't have to run it. Tom Brady threw for 325. Miles Hartsfield had a really good game for the Panthers. 12 tackles, 1 sack, the only sack for the Panthers. He was all over the place. You texted me really early in the game and said that he was kind of making a bid for hero of the game.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else who deserves it.
No, he gave up a touchdown late, but honestly, at that point, it was already pretty much over.
The game was over, yeah.
And let's be honest, Miles Hartsfield, he doesn't get much attention or love. I would give him my hero because of that.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. 0. You just want to give it to Matt Rhule. I mean, honestly, just finish out the season.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the Matt Rhule 0 of the season. All right, so we'll come back, I guess, next week or this week, maybe sometime, maybe next week. We'll see. And do more of a full season recap and kind of do some awards and some things that worked, things that didn't.
Off-season moves, grades, stuff like that.
We might look at some of the pending free agents for the Panthers, what we think might happen there. I don't know if we'll do that on a separate episode or not, but we'll be back. There's plenty more to talk about. Maybe we'll even do some playoff stuff. I don't know, but otherwise, Jerry, I think that'll probably do it.
Yeah, we want to thank everyone for listening. If you're still listening, if you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. And if you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on our show. Please like and subscribe.
Everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.
Wow.